Steele. My name is Jim Keene. I represent Senate District 38 in Montana and Western Montana. Mr. Steele, some of us are old enough in the room to remember the 1970s, when America promised we would never get in the same shape again. And a few months later, we forgot that promise, and we forgot that promise up until now. What's happened, we need to revigorate that promise where we get away from the oil we are. What we actually pay, everybody, whether you're a opponent or a proponent to this, who drove here or flew here, you know, diesel's $4 a gallon, gas is $3.60 plus, north of $3.60. We don't pay that in America. We're paying $7.50 to $8 a gallon. That's not Jim Keene speaking. That's a strategic study by the Pentagon of what the actual price of fuel is to Americans. And I would like to make a reference to that for this committee to take a look at that strategic study done by the Pentagon, what Americans actually pay for oil. We're all paying the price because the government has to defend this oil in order for it to be delivered. We don't have to defend the oil coming out of Canada. We don't have to do that. It's a benefit to us, and it cuts back our dependence on foreign oil. One of the other things, so what's a copper miner from Butte doing over here talking about oil? They're identical. The Keystone Pipeline and copper are identical. We want Canada to sustain this country and this state through 2 world wars. It has great benefits, and without that, who knows where we would be. Copper provides the transmission for electricity, one of our primary energy sources. The XL Pipeline is transmission for our other energy sources. They're identical. And to ignore that fact, is at our own peril. We need to recognize that that's what we need to do, is build this pipeline. And I'd just like to make a comment to the people who aren't speaking over here. People here are sitting here because they want to go back to work. They want to do something for this country. They want to put food and bread on the table without worry. They want decent jobs, and this pipeline can provide that. These people may not speak, but every one of them wants to go back to work and help out in whatever way they can. I'd appreciate you taking those to Ms. Clinton, and I appreciate the comments taken into serious effect and put America back to work and the people here in Montana, and let's build our energy future and not go back to what we did in the 1970s. Thank you.
And a landowner owning 3 sections of land where the proposed pipeline will cross. I'm here to support the Department of State's approval of the Keystone XL Pipeline project, granting TransCanada the presidential permit necessary to begin building the pipeline. The proposed pipeline will cross Macomb County diagonally from the northwest corner to the southeast corner of the county, covering approximately 70 miles of the total 282 miles in Montana. As a county commissioner, our concerns so far have dealt mainly with the use of our county roads. The TransCanada representatives have dealt with us very fairly and to our satisfaction, and have been very willing to meet any and all of our demands. A man camp has been proposed to be built near Circle, the county seat of Macomb County, with 600 to 700 people living there for approximately 1.5 years. This will have a significant impact on the town of Circle and Macomb County by nearly doubling the population of Circle. We have been assured that the impact that this brings will be dealt with by TransCanada, and that they will help with any and all concerns or issues that arise. The majority of the people in our county are in support of the pipeline. My husband and I own 3 sections of land where the pipeline is proposed to cross. We have signed the easements for these areas and have received a very fair payment for these easements and damages for the first year. We will be paid for any and all crop and pasture damages that the pipeline may incur for 2 years following construction. We also have a permanent electrical transmission line that crosses some of our property, which requires farming around the towers. After the pipeline is completed, we will be able to resume our regular activities of farming and ranching with little or no disturbance, and have been and will be compensated for the disturbance during and following the pipeline construction. The representatives from TransCanada have treated us with a great deal of respect and have met all of our requests in our agreement with TransCanada. There has been a great deal of concern about leaks in the pipeline. TransCanada does not want a leak in the pipeline, as their sole purpose for this pipeline is to transport oil from Canada, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Oklahoma to our refineries in Texas. Therefore, they will make every effort to do just that. Our country is reliant on oil for the energy and the many products that it provides. Until that changes, we must address the supply of this oil. We cannot and should not rely on unreliable, unfriendly sources that we are presently doing. This valuable energy infrastructure project provides substantial national security and economic benefits. By supporting the domestic production and importing oil from Canada, national and energy security will be improved. A long, stable energy supply will be provided, jobs will be created, and economic growth will be encouraged. Not only is this Keystone XL Pipeline project in the best interest of our nation, it is also in the best interest of our state and our counties. With the increase of taxes that TransCanada will pay, we foresee the capability to improve our roads and infrastructure, increase school funding, and lessen the tax burden on our county's taxpayers. The Department of State has been very thorough during the approval process, and I appreciate the many opportunities for public input on the project and its potential impact on the environment. As a county commissioner, and I speak for all three of us, and the landowner who owns property where the pipeline will cross, I believe that construction of the Keystone XL Pipeline is clearly in the best interest of all Americans. And I respectfully request that the Department of State approve the project and grant TransCanada the presidential permit necessary to begin the building of the pipeline. Thank you for the opportunity to comment.
My name is Bert Keegan. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I'm a member of the Marine Corps Legion, American Legion, United Veterans Council. And I'm also the chairman of the Yellowstone County Veteran Cemetery Board. My formative years were after World War II in the 1950s, when our country was strong. We were rebuilding the world. Patriotism was taught in schools. We were proud to be Americans. We could accomplish anything we set our minds to. We went to the moon in 1969. OPEC was founded in 1965. Those countries nationalized their oil fields and created a price-fixing cartel. OPEC initiated the oil crisis in 1973, which triggered a period of inflation. They used their oil weapon, which they won't use again. In 1966, I joined the Marine Corps and lived up to the patriotism that I learned as a child. I had some skin in the game. Many of my counterparts went to school, and many adopted one radical cause or another, including the hardcore environmentalists. In 1979, I started a communications company. Our main customers were the oil service companies, drillers, and some major oil companies. These companies were going to help us become energy independent, and Arabs could eat their oil. I traveled all over the western United States. A lot of areas were explored, were never brought into production. What stopped some of this development was the price of oil. As we recall, OPEC dropped their prices to slow down this rebellion. During my years, I have watched my great nation sink and decline, fight wars protecting our interests in the Middle East, and attend funerals of my fellow Marines that died in this last war. I am a bugler and play taps over these young warriors in their coffins. I have watched the greatest transfer of wealth in the history of the world, and now the loss of our industries and jobs, mainly due to the price of energy and some foolish environmental regulations. The EPA now even wants to regulate dust. We now have a small percentage of our population utilizing the courts and our regulations that were put in place to reasonably protect our environment. They are using them to stop anything that could help our economy or return our country to greatness. I regard their actions as fraud, if not treason. I know the radical environmental opposition to the XL Pipeline is a slow down or stop the use of fossil fuels. The world will turn to an alternative energy source when it is available and affordable. But until that day, we are a fossil fuel dependent nation. The point I would like to make is, I believe the transportation of Canadian oil and the oil from the Bakken Formation is critical to the security of our nation. I would rather have us buy oil from a friend than depend on our enemies and unstable governments. As far as the radical environmentalists, may they freeze to death in the dark.
Mr. Steele, my name is Todd Devlin, D-E-V-L-I-N, Prairie County Commissioner, Montana. For oil supply, you need to have compatible regulation that will allow development and still address environmental concerns. That was the intent of the National Environmental Policy Act. NEPA was designed to manage our resources for the benefit of mankind. For man, its intent was not to reserve. Because of time, we have Prairie County addressed 18 concerns, and because of time, I will address 8. And then if I could hand in my written testimony to you guys, is that all right? Concern number 3 was the leaks on the Keystone 1 in North Dakota. The largest leak was less than 400 gallons, about 9 barrels of oil. The other 13 were sensor-inserted failure due to vibration. The leaks were less than 10 gallons each. The total oil spill on Keystone 1 of all 14 was less than 13 barrels of oil. The cause of the leaks was due to vibration caused by flow reduction using valves. The Keystone 1 does not have variable speed pumps and valves, and has to use valves to reduce the flow. However, the Keystone XL has variable speed pumps which can be reduced down and you wouldn't get that vibration. Is thickness of the pipeline an issue? Prairie County is not an expert on pipe recommendations for Keystone XL projects. However, the Department of State, DEQ, and the American Petroleum Institute all conclude that the pipe used will meet or exceed industry standards of safety. There's been a lot of concern in our constituents about haul agreements. Our Prairie County Attorney Becky Condry was the lead attorney for representation of the Montana counties on developing a haul road agreement. Prairie County has reviewed the haul agreements and are satisfied that the agreement protects the county for additional impacts due to damage of roads used by TransCanada. Liability of the landowner. TransCanada is liable for the pipeline. All cleanup damage, if that was happen, which I don't think will, I hopefully won't. All cleanup and damage is the total responsibility of TransCanada. However, if TransCanada can show in a court of law that the landowner caused the damage and was negligent in his or her actions, then by negligence, the landowner may be responsible for some or all the costs. I mean, absolutely. We recommend from Prairie County that we strongly recommend the landowners do not work or disturb within the final and permanent easement without written approval from TransCanada. Tax base. Due to the federal holdings, 429,000 acres out of 1 million, we have really no expansion of tax base. This would increase our tax base by 300%. Prairie County's position on the construction of the Keystone XL. Prairie County supports construction of the Keystone. Prairie County will assist local landowners in negotiations. If requested, we fully expect fair and equitable treatment of landowners by TransCanada within our jurisdictional boundaries. To put it simply, this is jobs, it is security, and it is taxes. Thank you.